on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv, and it's the day before Veterans Day, so we'll get to that later, but I see CJ has got his hands on some
I got something very interesting to talk about.
interesting to talk about.
First, something uninteresting. The prosecutors in the Jasiel Correia trial have filed an appeal on the 10 fraud convictions that were thrown out by the judge. So it should be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, because some of those were IRS.
Yeah, the IRS does not like to lose cases.
No,
Yeah, they
don't like to lose their money.
No.
So on Monday, the U.S. government filed notice with the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit that is appealing the decision by Judge Douglas Woodlock to acquit Correia of 10 other counts of wire fraud and tax fraud. So this is going to be interesting. I checked yesterday on the Bureau of Prisons inmate locator for Jaisal. It lists him as white, 29, not in BOP custody. So they don't have a prison that they send him to yet. Once they have a prison, they'll let us know where they're going to send him. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, it's going to be interesting with these appeals too, because I think we did discuss, I think it may be off air mostly, but we did discuss the judge's actions in the sentencing, because normally if they set aside a verdict, if they feel is really bad, the judge does have the right to set aside a verdict from a jury, and that's normally done at the completion of the trial, not in the sentencing phase.
Right.
Because, so I mean, I don't know about and some of the things that he really. Well, we'll see. It's going to be very, very interesting because, as I said, they managed to put Capone away on the IRS charges.
That's it.
So let's see what happens with this. It's another little interesting twist in the never-ending saga of Jaisal.
Well, what's going to be interesting because of this appeal is Jen Andrate's case is coming up next month. And some of the charges that Jaisal was acquitted on by the judge are some of the similar charges that Jen Andrade is facing. So those charges are going to probably come off before it goes to trial, unless the decision by the judge is overturned by the Court of Appeals, in which case Jen's going to be facing those.
Yep.
So that will be very interesting. So again, the unending saga of Jasiel Correia is continuing on. Now for the big interesting thing.
The expensive interesting.
The expensive. You know how the city of Fall River always wants to raise your water and sewer rates? Well, let me tell you what you're paying for. Yesterday, got a copy of the EWG Tap Water Database. This is a nonprofit organization that checks out water conditions throughout the country. And the Fall River Water Department has, for January 2021 through March 2021, which is the latest quarter, tap water provided by this water utility was in compliance with federal health-based drinking water standards. But, big but, big but. The water supply has 20 different contaminants in it, and 9 of them exceed the health standards set up. And remember, legal doesn't mean that it means it's safe. And getting a passing grade from the federal government does not mean the water meets the latest health guidelines. So what do we look at here? We've got bromodichloromethane, chloroform, dibromoacetic acid, dibromochlorophene, dichloromethane. I'm getting tongue.
Say that quickly 10 times in a row. Go
Exactly.
ahead.
Dichloroacetic acid again. Haloacetic acid, otherwise known as hash.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Haloacetic acid 9. Total trihalomethanes is 324 times the health standard. The haloacetic acid, 395 times the health standard. Fall River has 23.7 parts per billion in the haloacetic acid. They have 48.6 parts per billion in the total trihalomethanes. They have 19.6 parts per million on the haloacetic acid 5. They have 10.9 parts per billion on the dichloroacetic acid. A lot of this is, kind of confusing, but here's some of the interesting parts. Many of these items that were found in our water supply are carcinogenic. I'm not saying that you're going to get cancer from the water, so don't misquote me. Remember, Paul, I did not say you're going to get cancer from the water. I'm just saying that they found in our water some carcinogenic materials, which is not unheard of for surface water supplies. You're going to find some natural stuff. But here's the big thing. From April 2019 to March 2021, the Fall River Water Department complied with health-based drinking water standards, 12 quarters in violation of any federal drinking water standard from April 2019 to March 2021. That's 3 years. 3 years they did not meet the federal standard.
Well,
and they always say, we have wonderful water in Fall River.
we did many years ago. They were talking about actually bottling it and selling it many years ago.
Right.
When down in the Ice Age when we were children. But I hope the city council gets this report, and I hope somebody does something about it, because we're paying a lot of money, and
And they keep jacking the rate up.
So what's the moral of that story? Don't drink Fall River water. Filter it. Get a Brita. Get the other one. Whatever these filters are. Get a filtering. Buy bottled water. But it's a shame that we have these contaminants in the water. And if we want state-of-the-art football fields. We can get Natick football fields, but we're not getting Natick water.
That's for sure.
And Wellesley and Newton water. That's the problem. And, it's an issue, but...
This water report is easily found on the web. It's under EWG tap water database. And also with this, because you brought it up, filters, it lists the type, not the brand name, not a specific one, but the 3 different types of filters which are effective on removing these contaminants from the water supply. So if you want to look at that, you can. One of them that they say is not effective is the ion water, filtration system. It's ineffective on just about everything. But there are 2 that are pretty effective. So go to the website, look it over, see if you can find something you like, see if you can read the report, because we've got the report.
Yeah.
We don't make this stuff up. I didn't sit around my computer all last night making this pretty, this pretty little thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, this is the problem again. We seem to have kind of convoluted priorities here. We hear that we need AstroTurf, not just regular grass on our baseball field, and we'll spend millions of dollars, but we can't figure out how to filter our drinking water properly. We can't comply with federal standards. That's just wrong. It just goes to show a total lack. But while we're on kind of like city thing, I am again, and I know you know about it, we discussed it a little bit, about the locked doors at Durfee High School.
Yes.
I received 2 more complaints from viewers about the locked doors, supposedly, allegedly, and I know you haven't received anything back from the principal, and you did email her.
I emailed the superintendent of schools with a copy to the mayor and a copy to the school committee.
Yeah.
And I've received no reply to my requests on what's going on with the locked doors.
Is this Loudoun County School Committee? No, wait a minute. No, it isn't. Okay. But, yeah, and I know you sent something, but I received another complaint. Apparently, their child attempted to go down to check on grades or something like that, and they couldn't get anywhere because all the doors were locked. There were no teachers around to open the doors. And this is look, I hate to say this. Well, no, I don't hate to say it. It's a fact. This is a public health hazard. This is a safety hazard. This is a hazard. What happens if there's an emergency in that school, there's a fire, and you have to evacuate, or God forbid, there's an active shooting incident.
Exactly.
And we have exits that are locked. We know what happened in the mill, the famous mill fire that they chained the doors and hundreds of people died in New York. And we know what happens when they get chained doors and locked doors. People are going to go to the nearest door and it's going to be locked. I don't know how they're allowing this. And the excuse that I heard was that the student population in Durfee is so out of control now. There's all kinds of fights and vandalism going on that they're fundamentally turning this thing into a prison. And we don't know about it. So, the public needs answers on this. If your child goes to Durfee, call your school committee. I've called a school committeeman. Supposedly they're investigating. But we know how that goes. All we have to do is look at Malone. Is he still around? It's November. This is supposed to be his last month. Is he still dragging a paycheck from this city?
I don't believe so.
After violating about 600 federal laws?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
So we know what the Gang of Four did to cover this up and suppress this. It seems like school committees throughout the country have forgotten that they're elected by the people to make sure that the parents and the students are protected. Yet, if a parent complains now, they're a white supremacist, a terrorist. The DOJ's been weaponized against them, and we see how that happened. Look at Virginia. The country is rebelling. It's time for the people of Fall River to stand up. We have to find out if these are allegations, and we're not going to say, I haven't been to Durfee and been locked out anywhere, but we have received numerous complaints about this, and something should be done about it. They should not be locking doors that are used, because there's a life safety code. The National Fire Protection Association has a life safety code. And it talks about means of egress. It talks about, how many you need. If you lock them, you're not in compliance. And if there's a tragedy after the fact, well, who's to blame? The people who lock the doors. Yeah, you can't use locking something up rather than creating an environment there where the student population is safe. If people are running around and doing things that they shouldn't be doing in the hallways, figure out a way to discipline these people and figure out a way to control your student population. The way isn't turning the school into a prison, basically.
Right. And as we've heard, when we first broke this story, allegedly, 40 students were transferred from Durfee to the Resiliency Prep Academy or school, whatever they want to call it. And that indicates a problem. That's a behavioral issue right there, if that is accurate. Also, there's allegedly one student who's being prosecuted in court. So again, another issue which brings up what's going on in the school. Now, from what I remember in my days, and I'm not a fire expert or a fire safety expert, all the doors are supposed to have push bars. You push it, it releases the door.
It's called panic hardware.
A panic door, that's it, panic bar.
Panic.
And are they locking those down?
Well,
it'd be interesting if they were. Because how could you do it?
Well, I'd like to see obviously there has to be emergency doors, panic hardware doors. I think when we listened to the presentation on the debt override and we talked about public safety, we did have some questions on that. And I believe they said there was only going to be 1 or 2 means of entering the school for safety purposes and to maintain that. So I'm not, that was a while ago. That was like 18 already. So we were dealing with this and we listened to these presentations because I remember questioning the police chief and the fire chief about that, which you can see. Like I know in many schools in New York and places like that, they have, they have metal detectors at the door. Students only have 1 means of getting in or 2 means of getting in. Getting in is a different story than getting out.
That's right.
Because getting out is a safety issue. Getting in is a safety issue, is a safety issue as far as bringing in weapons and things like that. So you can see, you can make limitations about getting into a place. But now we know there are safety issues everywhere. You have to have 2 means of exit from a residential home. If you don't, you have to put a fire escape. You remember the old 3-deckers?
Yep.
They didn't have it. They didn't have a secondary means of it.
And that's why a lot of them have fire escapes.
And now they have fire,
Right.
because the code says that. So the thing is, this is an issue. We're not doing this to be, obviously I am very sensitive to public safety because obviously that was my job. And, the first thing I had to check when I went into a building was to ensure that they complied. I wrote up a lot of people in 3-deckers, unfortunately, when I went into the second stairwell and it was loaded with furniture and stuff, and you couldn't get out.
Right.
Then I had to write them up and say, you have to clear this because you have to have an exit.
Right.
A secondary exit. If that exit's blocked by fire, you need to have a secondary exit. You can't be locking children on floors and they can't get from one floor to another floor, let alone to get out the building. This is ridiculous. And it shows a total lack of any perspective on what you've got. You've got an extremely large building there with an extremely high population of students and faculty. And if there's an emergency there, it's too late to figure out that what you did was wrong.
And just think of the panic that people go into when there's an emergency, when there's a fire. People going, all you got to do is remember the Station nightclub fire. Okay, they had one door to get out of the place. And people were trampling each other to get out.
Yeah.
If that's what's happening at Durfee, where there's only one door to get out, and something happens, God forbid, this could be, a serious catastrophe.
Oh, no, it is. And because people don't realize when you're taking smoke, it increases your respiration rate. You begin to become disoriented. Those are all symptoms of I'll never forget one fire I went into, and it was really wasn't a bad fire. It was a kind of a mattress fire. The guy got drunk and fell asleep and set his mattress. Mattress fires normally don't get too bad, but they do create a lot of smoke. Any kind of stuffed furniture creates a tremendous amount of smoke. And what a lot of people don't realize, we're doing a fire safety thing here, but 75% of the deaths and fires are caused by smoke inhalation, not by the actual fire. So smoke is one of the most dangerous things you have in a fire. You can die from a small fire that creates a lot of smoke, i.e. mattresses, etc. I remember we went into the building, obviously, because there was smoke showing out the windows. The guy was running around his own house. He couldn't find his way out of his own house. He's yelling, "Where's the door? Where's the door?" Because he was totally disoriented and scared.
Right.
I mean, this is a serious issue, and this can't be allowed to go on. And it's to me, it's just inexcusable that we're finding this out because students are taking pictures of things like the vandalism. We didn't hear about the vandalism in the bathrooms. We only found out after students took pictures.
That's right.
We didn't find out about the so-called steam pipe and the leaks until students are actually reporting this.
Right. I mean, they had pictures of the ceiling with water pouring out of it. They had a 55-gallon bin or some type of large trash container in the hallway collecting water. That's how much water was coming out.
Yeah,
okay? That That's the old Durfee building. That's what the old Durfee building used to do.
Yeah, I hate to tell you this, but that's not a steam pipe.
No, it's
if
not.
You got a 55-gallon drum collecting it, you know, not a bucket. So, but look, this is the problem. The problem is, it's not. Why did they suppress things? Why? They don't want to take the political flack about this is a brand new building. Why is this happening? And even if it was a brand new building and nothing was happening, we can't have people destroying the building. We can't be locking people in because you can't control the student population. Unfortunately, that's your job. You took it, do it. You know, and the thing is, you can't jeopardize the students and the faculty's lives if this is happening. And like I will reiterate, this is an allegation. But we've had a lot of people complain. I've had numerous, and I know you have, I have had numerous complaints. They called me and texted me, and we've got pictures of things. And
right.
So let's get to the bottom of this, and I am gonna recall that school committeeman that I reached out to, because I'm sure that he's reached out to the superintendent as you did. And I'm curious to see if he's gotten a response, because you haven't.
I haven't received a response. And one of the things that we need to remember is this is still a new building. It's supposedly under a 1-year warranty. So all of these problems should be fixed almost immediately when they're reported. And if you have some transparency, I said that swear word again. If you have some transparency, the school department should turn around and say, you know, we have found a leak in the building on the 2nd floor, on the 3rd floor, on the 1st floor, wherever it may be. We're currently collecting the water in containers. We've notified the contractor. He's going to be dispatching a crew to assess and repair this almost immediately. We've heard nothing. That type of responsibility, that type of information will go miles with the public. Miles. They won't have to worry so much about, is my $263 million being destroyed by the building itself? Because that's a big concern. We've got a concern with the kids destroying the building. But when the building is destroying the building, that's something we should have some control over without a problem. Kids are going to be a little difficult to get some control on, but the building itself, we should be able to get our hands on the situation and be able to repair that immediately. I do know that I was told by somebody in maintenance that they were regularly working on repairing the vandalism that occurred in the school, in the bathrooms and whatnot. I don't know if that's still going on, but they were working on getting to that problem.
And we were told that the bathrooms are being locked, and that's not a problem, obviously, a bathroom. But you can't be locking, doors. Mm-hmm. I mean, if obviously if they're doing something to the bathroom, locking a bathroom, because nobody's supposed to be in the bathroom except to be using it, not to vandalize it. But this is an issue. But hey, we're going to stay on this until we get an answer. But let me segue. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and
I know your position on it.
Yeah. Well, I will. First of all, let me begin by saying that I want everybody to remember, especially, obviously all the wars, as I said on the last show, Veterans Day should not be one day a year where you clap and cheer for a parade. Remember the sacrifice everybody who put on a uniform for this nation should be recognized 365 days a year. We should not have veterans dying in the streets outside of a VA, and as they were at Brentwood. We should not have 22 veterans a day committing suicide because of stress-related issues and other issues related to their military service. Respect what they did. And especially this year, let's remember the Afghan vets who are having far more problems. They've already had a lot of problems, but after that disaster that this senile president that we have created by the withdrawal, those men served, And, you know, it's hard. You can tell them from another veteran, you know, your service, you did your part. It's not your fault that this disaster happened. It's solely on the backs of this administration. And just give an extra minute to the people who served in Afghanistan. And I know some people, some friends of my son who went to college with my son. One was a career military officer, and he had 3 or 4 tours in Afghanistan. So I know that. But just to remind people the sacrifices made, I'm going to quickly give you the amount of deaths that we've had in wars, ranked by the number of deaths. First is the American Civil War. And remember, the populations were lower then than it is today. The first one is the American Civil War. 655,000 deaths. 655,000. Of course, they lost almost as many as was lost in Vietnam at the Battle of Gettysburg. Of course, that was Americans, unfortunately, killing Americans. But that was the number one. World War II was second with 405,399. And that lasted from, Civil War was 1860 and 1865, 4 years. World War II, 41 to 45. World War I, 116,516. The Vietnam War, 58,209. Korean War, 36,000. American Revolutionary War, and remember the population was only about 2 million then, 25,000. The War of 1812, 15,000. Mexican-American War, 13,000. Iraq War, 4,576. Philippine-American War, which a lot of people don't know about, from 1899 to 1902, 4,196. Afghanistan, 2,432. And the Spanish-American War, 2,246. Now, you add up those numbers, that's a lot of people. But it adds up to one thing, the sacrifice made by Americans to fight for this nation. And if you don't remember that year round, you know, you're not giving them the credit they're due, and you're also not realizing the fact that you get to be what you are because of those sacrifices. And I can't stress enough, you know, what a lot of these people faced. I mean, in every war, they came home and they had to carry that war forever. And just remember that when you want to say things that people don't agree with, you got the right to do that because of the sacrifices of all these men and women. And that's what it is. Because I know firsthand. My father was one of the first soldiers to liberate Buchenwald, the concentration camp, the first concentration camp liberated by Americans. And I donated some memorabilia that he brought from Buchenwald, pictures that he took to the National Holocaust Museum. He carried that with him for his entire life. So tomorrow, remember, it's not one day. It's a day that we recognize their sacrifice, but remember that sacrifice throughout the year.
Well, I can't argue that position at all, and I wouldn't even try. But I will say those numbers you presented are eye-opening. But one of the things I think is more important is the fact that the deaths in the war did not end in the war.
No.
We still have people today which are dying because of wars. As you said, 22 veterans a day are committing suicide. That's unacceptable. You have veterans living on the streets. That's unacceptable. We can give $450,000 to an immigrant, but we can't give $100,000 to a veteran to get a house. I mean, that's a little sad and a little depressing for me. And I want to know where the hell my tax dollars are going if they're not going to help people who have helped this country. That's the most important thing. They have helped this country, and they've made you a free person because of what they gave up and what they've done. Well, we're out of time. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, hold your politicians accountable, and remember, have a good day, and hold your politicians right where they need to be, in the palm of your hand. Have a great day, people.
The
Thank you
views
for
and
watching.
opinions expressed on any